Well, let me start by saying that this entire morning strikes me as an extended version of the FedEx Fast Talk commercial, and I'll do my bit to keep the momentum going. I should also say that Vin's remarks and mine are absolutely uncoordinated, so you can view this as sort of a dry run for the possibility of a conversation in this town between reasonable conservatives, of whom Vin is a leading example, and reasonable liberals, although many people in this town refuse to attach either the adjective or the noun to me. I'm persistent in regarding myself as one. So let me, just to show you how this convergence is possible, let me read to you the very first note that I made to myself for this talk. Poverty is not the same thing as inequality, is not the same thing as opportunity, is not the same thing as mobility. And then my next sentence, which I underlined, is, and I quote, inequality is the most divisive frame. So we begin by agreeing that opportunity is the most inclusive frame, that poverty, as Vim said with some explanations, is a conceivable frame, and inequality is absolutely the wrong way to pick up the subject. Indeed, I've detected among my conservative and Republican friends a lot of support for carefully crafted, means-tested anti-poverty programs. Details to come, but I think that's sort of common language. I would also say, and here I do associate myself with the spirit, if not always with the letter of Peter Gosselin's remarks earlier, that focusing on opportunity means taking the challenges of the new global economy seriously. I don't think either party can evade this. What was characteristic of the 1990s as that decade went along was increasing confidence that, on balance, the new economy was and could be good for America. What I see in this decade is steadily decreasing confidence that this new global economy is or can be good for America, and this is leading to a number of very perverse consequences. I would say, and I hope both parties can agree on this, restoring broadly shared prosperity is a central challenge for us all, and conversely, continuing productivity improvements plus long-term wage stagnation is an explosive and ultimately unsustainable combination. With that as a backdrop, let me just make a few policy remarks in an effort to see what degree of policy convergence is possible. First of all, I am against more experimentation, more pilot programs. I think we ought to build on what works based on the experience of the past 15 or 20 years. I'm tired of demonstration programs that never demonstrate anything and successful experiments that are never replicated. So let me make a very few comments. First of all, on the wage front, I do think that the EITC is a place of bipartisan convergence, and I hope it will be possible to agree that it ought to be expanded for single workers, which I believe would be a pro-marriage strategy, and along with that, that we ought to reduce the marriage penalty, which is built into the current structure of the EITC. I may be pressing the limits of bipartisan consensus when I suggest as a parallel track, rather than the fits and starts of the minimum wage, why don't we do for the minimum wage what we've done for the tax code and a number of other features of public policy, simply index it and get it off the political agenda and avoid these extended periods where the minimum wage decreases in real purchasing power. Secondly, savings. I think there's a lot of support across party lines for means-tested savings match strategies, where you have a decreasing match as you go up the income ladder, but a very robust match for people who are poor or near poor. Third, I think there's a fair amount of agreement that the welfare to work strategy employed in the 1990s was on balance a pretty successful, and you can You can frame it as Stuart Butler has done, as individual responsibility and social responsibility, or as Ron Mincy has done, as requiring and enabling. But it basically amounts to this. Basically amounts to the same thing. And I think that we ought to build there on success, an expanded child tax credit for poor families. I would hope is something that the reasonable people in both parties could discuss. Family structure, here once again, I mean, if you look at the document that Ron Haskins and Belle Sawhill put together, they agree that sequence matters, that the best thing is to get out of high school and wait until your 20s and get married before you have children, and the poverty statistics are stunningly different depending on whether you do that or you don't, which suggests to me that there ought to be room for an expanded federal government partnership with the private and nonprofit sector to reduce teen and unwed pregnancy. In the area of education, I would like to believe that we can have a reasonable bipartisan discussion there as well. How much more time do I have? 4 minutes. Oh, I won't take them. Ron Haskins will be pleased to hear. I would like to believe that we can build on the principles of accountability and assessment. Although, as a veteran of the educational policy wars through the 1990s and up to the present day, I think it's going to be a very difficult discussion. But there are some other things we have to do. First of all, half of the achievement gap that we've talked so much about is attributable to differences that kids bring with them to school on their very first day of public school. So we don't have the luxury of focusing only on the public schools. We have to focus on readiness for school. I would hope that we could have a discussion about a new federal-state partnership for an academically rich pre-K opportunity available to all families regardless of income, which I think would involve means-tested subsidies. I think, given the research, the idea of summer opportunity vouchers on a means-tested basis really makes a lot of sense. Now, let me get to the tough one. We've been talking a lot about higher standards in public education. We haven't been talking nearly enough about the high school dropout crisis, because higher standards won't help people who aren't in school anymore. And as we've been learning recently, the statistics on that are much worse than we had previously believed. I think we need a much greater focus on that. Here's an idea that I cooked up on a panel the day before yesterday, and I'll try it out on you. What if we had a partnership, a civil society partnership, where college freshmen would partner with individual high school freshmen, one-on-one, and take responsibility as best they can for giving a high school freshman some of the advice necessary in order to stay in school, backstopped with fairly robust public assistance. I think we need to coordinate high school graduation and college readiness standards. It's stunning how many of our kids get out of inner city schools believing that they're ready for college when they're not. And at the same time, I think we need more effective means of building bridges between high school and college, so that a lot of able high school students from low-income families, who have never believed that it's possible for them to go to college, learn that not only is it possible, but if they want to achieve their dreams, it's necessary. Final point. I want to express some skepticism, particularly if we have to establish a priority list, of major investment in place-based programs as opposed to individuals and families. They're very complicated to pull off, very complicated to replicate. The experience of programs such as enterprise zones and empowerment zones is not altogether encouraging. And so I would recommend, if we have to choose, which for Vin's reasons we must, I would recommend a focus on individuals and families with a subordinate position at best for more place-based strategies.